Are you able to see and hear me? I'll see the screen. Yeah, perfect. So we'll just start from kind of an overview of what we'll cover then. So how to think like a hiring manager to really get an insight into what a recruiter or hiring manager will be considering when they're reviewing your CV and cover letter, like what information is important to them. And then things to consider before you start, what you should do, how you should prepare, and then also how you can or should write an effective CV for a specific role. And this bit's really important, tailoring your CV and your cover letter, not just pushing the same one out to multiple roles, including your CV. And then also just some general kind of tips for your CV and your structure, some more specific tips for undergraduate CVs. And then I'm going to kind of the content and what to include in more depth, and also some things to avoid in your CV. Also, I'll just cover a little section on CV language tips, then moving on to your cover letter and tips for that, and then also go through just a couple of structure examples of both as well, and how you can, well, taking a previous year's job description example and how you should kind of use that to form your CV and cover letter. Sorry, this is freezing on me. Not letting me, here we go. Right, so yeah, basically how to think like a hiring manager. I think the important takeaways here are that recruiters, so people who recruit only for a living, who are really experienced with this, will spend an average of 6 seconds reviewing a CV. So you really want to pack a punch, especially at the top of that CV in your summary. Hiring managers who just recruit for one company will spend a bit longer, but I just want the key takeaway to be, grabbing attention with your summary. And then 80% of how they'll spend time is looking in the order from the kind of top down, like your name, like who you are, then your current role, whether that's kind of university or a job role, and then the role that you had before that, and also your position start and end date. So typically we want to see how long someone will last, how committed they are, and then going into your past titles and companies and education. This will be slightly different because it's undergraduate CVs and what people are looking for interns here, but that's just a kind of general overview, and the biggest takeaway is just make sure that you grab attention. And then just a point to note as well that a really high percentage, 78% of CVs are misleading. You really want to kind of sell and pitch all your best skills, but never lie or embellish your experience. I think is a really big thing to take away here, because when you get to interview, it'll be really difficult to kind of continue and keep up that embellished experience. So yeah, tell the truth, but still think about kind of selling your skill set. And then some things to consider before you start this process is really researching the employer. What's going on for them in the news, just looking at Google News, any articles on their LinkedIn, anything that's really relevant that'll make you stand out and make it clear that you're really interested and you've done your work to look into them. Also, what is their mission statement and values? How does that resonate with you? How do you fit? Start having to think about that. And then also, if on LinkedIn you can find previous scholars who have worked for that company as a Saltire intern, then I would absolutely reach out to them and see if they're willing to have a chat. I know I did this with I actually still remember their names, a couple of people called Lewis and Megan, who were at Chicago Scots where I was the year before, and they were really helpful in allowing me to know what the culture was like, what the internship was like. So I would encourage you to reach out. And then also, and I'll go through this in more detail, but really highlighting, like taking the job description, print it off if you can, if not highlighting just with the tool on Word, but like what are the key asks, what are the key skills, and making notes of how you meet those. You want to kind of mirror these keywords that they've used in the job description. Any that are applicable to you, you want to make sure that the hiring manager knows that, and it's obvious from the very start of your CV. And then also know the industry and area that you're interested in. Really encourage you to take the time to understand and put context behind the fields that your ideal employer works within. If they service like different industries, what are they? Just get a good holistic view of this company. And then perhaps you can look at what major trends are shaping the sector that you're applying for too. And then something to think about as well is making sure that you're not repeating yourself. Continuous kind of repetition of like keywords and phrases. So as much as you've got to get them in there, not too much, because it will just be perceived as you don't have the experience or you're struggling for something to say and something to fill those pages with. And also if you can incorporate statistics to make your achievements more compelling, bring them more to life, then absolutely do that. So for example, these ones here, like cut costs by 25%, generated 5 million in sales, achieved over 85% in all modules. These things will really bring your experience to life. Then just some general CV tips. So essentially your CV will reflect your grades, abilities and experience. I would say as a general rule for undergraduates, it shouldn't be more than 2 pages. You want to be concise enough to kind of grab the attention and keep it for those 2 pages. And unless you are potentially a more mature student with a lot of work experience, yeah, I wouldn't recommend going past that 2 pages. Even then, just cutting it down to the most relevant parts of your experience. And then including all your previous experiences in reverse chronological order. So obviously if you do have a massive amount of experience and you maybe are a more mature student, this might not be completely relevant to put it all in, but typically for the profile of an undergraduate, then I would encourage that. And then make sure you've got all of the detail there, the company, the job title, location, where that site was or where that company was based. And then if you have left the reason for leaving, it just stops the recruiter kind of answering that or guessing and filling in the blanks themselves. And then making sure you, of course, list your key responsibilities, key achievements, again, with some evidence to back that up. That would be the best way to highlight that and keep it quite concise as well. And then I would say keeping to a traditional CV format. You don't have to overcomplicate it, unless perhaps you were applying for maybe something to do with marketing or a more creative role. I would say that, you know, just basic, not having lots of fancy boxes and lots of fancy formatting. So yeah, with these subtitles along the side here, like your profile, your skills highlight, work history, education, training and additional information. And I'll show you an example of this later on in the presentation. Then also definitely use bullet points under each role. This will keep it clear and concise, easy to follow and read along for the hiring manager. And then yeah, just as I was saying, just avoid complex formats, and also referring to yourself in first person. I would always use PDF format or Word. You don't want to have something that won't open on a kind of standard computing package. So even sometimes I'll find if you don't have a MacBook and someone saved it in, I suppose, a format that's only applicable to Apple or Mac, then that can make it complicated. So you want to make sure that this is easy to access for the hiring manager. And then making sure that you do check your spelling and grammar. I have a cheat because the first slide here I noticed a typo. I put an extra H somewhere, but it is really important when you're trying to make a really good impression. Use your peers, like your classmates, family, career service, and make sure you don't leave this to the last minute. You know, give them a good amount of time, and maybe get a couple of people to check that over. And then yeah, just the mindset, really think of it as a marketing tool. How do you sell yourself? How can you stand out from other applicants? So just into the sections, as we touched on, keeping these quite simple and clear, but in personal details, just something in there that will have your name. You don't necessarily need to put your address, but name, mobile number, email address. You know, how do these recruiters contact you, and then the profile, this is what I was speaking about at the start. This is extremely important, I think, because this is where you'll grab the attention. You want to have this having really high impact, summarising in a sentence or two, like why you are the right choice or fit for the job advert and for the role. And then also a concise summary of your experience, personal qualities and motivations as that would fit the role. This is a good place to kind of nod to your company knowledge or dedication to the role, just so that it encourages to read on further. And then also a skill highlight. So I'll show you what I mean by this again in the example, but this is again a really eye-catching, simple way to just kind of summarise your skills and how you fit the role, and encourage the recruiter to read on further to find out more about that and find out why you've put those skills down. And then carrying on from that, the work history. So I want to kind of hammer home here, this doesn't have to be paid work. This could be if you've not really worked because you're a student, this could be more around university, more around added detail into of your modules, and your extracurriculars as well. So just because you maybe haven't had paid work experience, it doesn't matter. You can flip this around to suit you and your actual experience. It's all just as important. Don't leave it out. You want to still have, you know, plenty of detail that lets the recruiter know about your experience. So as a rule for a kind of traditional CV, this should be presented in reverse chronological order. Again, with the format I described: company, location, job role, reason for leaving, just as I mentioned before. And then in your skills and responsibilities, you want to think of both the technical skills that you learned and also some of the softer skills. So like communication, team management, anything that isn't necessarily framed by being a technical skill. And then making sure that you do tailor this to mirror their language and keywords from their job advert. And also, again, where you could do this is in the skill highlight table at the top. And then, yeah, this is something just to note. I'm not actually sure. I believe Anna had said that they are using an applicant tracking system, but keywords are really important because traditionally a lot of HR departments, recruitment departments will use an applicant tracking system, and this will highlight the best applicants based on skill set fit. So making sure you are mirroring that language is very important. And then yeah, the personal qualities, making sure that you're showcasing how you resonate with the company's culture and mission. You would have already done this work and put thought into this before you started. Making sure that you can showcase that you're a dependable, reliable person, you know, like you're an easy bet whenever you can. And then again, just hitting home on how important tailoring your CV is. Don't put, if you're applying for 3 roles, don't put the one CV to all 3. At least tailor the profile and the skills highlight at the very least, just to make sure that it's very much a fit for that job. And then in the education section, kind of similar format to the work experience, where you put, you know, your institution or awarding body, your university, what your course title is, the date that you're going to be studying to and from, and then if you have it, your grades, your predicted grades, and then a list of your key modules, skills and extracurriculars. So again, if you don't have as much work experience, as where you could really kind of beef up and put the detail about your university experience in here, key projects, key modules. If they're practical modules, you know, what skills, is it lab skills, is it research skills, details around your project. And then if you do have any kind of official training or memberships, I've included the format there as well, similar to the above format. And I would always just have a little section for additional information, any special requirements that the job description is asked for. I actually seen one from the other year that said you have to be 21 or over to apply for it. So just kind of highlighting that if you have a driving license, if that's a kind of prerequisite as well, that's where you could include that information. I did mention, and it'll come up later in the slides as well, if you mention your availability there, but I know it's a prerequisite for the programme that you must be available on those dates, so that's not needed in this section. And then just to kind of go back over it, I did touch on it before, but for undergraduate CVs specifically, if you include your module lists, maybe expand on the ones that are most relevant to the role that you're applying for. That's how you could add real value to an undergraduate CV. And then you really want to kind of give a lot of detail about specific projects so that people can have an insight into your technical skills. So if you had a coursework project or like a research project that you used a lot of like programs or softwares, or you collected a lot of data in, and that's relevant to the role that you're applying for, make sure you include that. Also, details around how you perhaps like worked in a team, how you organised a team, organised workload, how you shared that is relevant as well. Just again, looking like showing more of your softer skills set. And then I would highlight all the extracurricular and voluntary work that you have participated in whilst studying, potentially before that as well. At school, that's all relevant and starts to really paint a great picture about, yourself, your interests, and can add some real value. And then I would say, just again to reiterate this, all work experience is relevant. If you work one day a week whilst you're studying, I don't know, in a bar, in a restaurant, don't think that this is irrelevant and not going to add any value because it's maybe not relevant to the technical skill set. This will show that someone is able to, be committed, manage competing priorities like university work, and will show that you have a bit of life experience as well. So don't leave that out. And then just down to some things I would say to avoid in your CV. So this one's a really simple one, but again goes down to that keyword thing and how applicant tracking systems will track those. But use the acronym. So if you are talking about high performance liquid chromatography, for example, don't type that. You'll kind of waste words, waste the space, and potentially it won't flag up as a keyword. So just say HPLC. There's thousands of examples of that, but yeah, definitely a really important one. And again, make sure that you are true and you don't embellish your skills and experience as much as you want to sell. It's got to be the truth. So definitely do that. And this might go on to the interview side as well, but thinking about what you done in projects, what your role was, not, we, the team, make it very much about yourself. And then also don't extend into long explanations, lengthy paragraphs. You want to use the bullet points, be concise and to the point, use the kind of action phrases or examples of stats where you can. And then just, again, don't submit a general CV or cover letter or tailor it every time. This will be important now, of course, but also in the future. A lot of people, I get it day in, day out in my job, where people just click whatever CV's on their LinkedIn and upload it to apply for a job. Sometimes it just is completely irrelevant, and if someone's got to spend more than that sort of 6 seconds to find out whether someone is a fit, if they missed that opportunity to tailor the top of their CV, then they probably just go in the maybe pile, which very quickly becomes a no pile, because you'll find people that stand out that come to the top of the pile very quickly, and you typically would end up being rejecting the group that haven't taken the time. And then make sure that you don't kind of copy and paste and just repeat each role or experience. Even if you've had 3 jobs, I don't know, in a bar that were the same, think about the key differences and highlight those, highlight the key achievements rather than saying, yeah, serving customers, dealing with cash, dealing with disputes. Like, what were the real things that distinguish those jobs from each other? And then just a bit on CV language tips. So, uh, action words is what you want to include, achieved, improved, trained, mentored. Usually these end in a sort of ed, but yeah, like what you done. These are a lot more impactful, and then of course can be followed up with some stats, which is really important. And then just staying away from, I don't know a better word for this, but like flowery language, something that just doesn't really say much about anything. I know I said like team, like making sure you could get across that you're a team player, but the word team player doesn't really tell you anything. Like, we want to know how, like what did you do that proves that you're a team player? So yeah, staying away from words like that. And then this is just a bit of a template just to show you what a basic CV will be structured like and will look like. So just it's not to scale at all. So some of these sections will be bigger, will be smaller, but just to show you what you should be including in here. Again, the really important part for me, just initially is, and what to tailor is that profile and skill highlights. So just a table, something like this, it could be just like 3 by 3, 4 by 4, whatever summarizes your kind of main skills that will mirror what they're looking for in their job description. But it would be as simple as typing in here, say they ask for like data management and like data collection. It would be as simple as typing that in there, and then the body of your CV should go into more detail about that. And then excuse me, just a bit again on the job description process. So making sure that you highlight the keywords, the company information, motivation, skills and experience and personal attributes that they're looking for. And then in between that, you would be looking back at your experience and maybe like writing or typing up a few examples that show that you have those skills, experience, motivation, and making sure you do spend the time to research the company, as I touched on before. And then also, I would split it like this is how I would do it if I was applying for a job. Make sure you know what the technical skills are, make sure you know what the personal kind of attributes or softer skills are, and then making notes and examples. This will save you a lot of time and a lot of pain, maybe if you're like weary about writing a CV or a cover letter, just doing this exercise, that all the content will start to come together. So before you even start to populate a kind of blank page with these subheadings or titles or structure, I would really encourage you to do that. Just spend a bit of time just thinking about what experience you have that matches. And then again, of course, tailoring. You're going to be sick of me saying that by the end of this, but tailor your CV and your cover letter. And then really your cover letter should come after your CV for me, and should be a new cover letter for every job you apply for. And this should really provide like more context, get more personal than the kind of factual stuff, and really highlight and bring to life your motivations. And you should be answering, why the company, and why this role, why you're right for that. So giving a lot more detail to complement the CV. And then I would say this, and I've done this many times when I was younger and applying for jobs, and I'll not make the same mistake again, but making sure that when you're doing, say, points, sort of 3 and 4, making those lists, doing that work, doing that company research, make sure that whether you're typing it up, writing it down, you keep a hold of that, because this will come really handy when hopefully you've wrote, like, the best CV, the best cover letter, you're selected for the interview process. It'll mean that you've already got a head start for preparing for that interview. So yeah, I would really recommend that you save that work, don't lose it. And this is just an example job spec from previous years. And this is just me just showing you how I would highlight and how I would pick out what the key skills and the key asks of this job description are. So I've color coded them. I would have 3 different highlighters. It's up to you how we do this, but I would be highlighting everything that told me about the company, or about how I could show that I am a company fit, or how I could show my motivation. So, for example, taking this one, they mention the net zero agenda. If this is something that's particularly important to yourself, and you've got experience and could show that, then that would be a great way to show like how you're motivated and how that company's values resonate with your own in your cover letter. And then also like company again, so they're developing liquid hydrogen vessels. Obviously that all links into the kind of net zero, but if that's something that you've been working on or interested in, maybe done projects at university, then you can share details of that. So again, that fit. And then just this job spec included a really nice part about the department. So that kind of softer fit, cultural fit. They did mention as well that the department has a broad range of technical skills. They kind of pointed out themselves that it's ideal for learning design practices and project delivery. So your kind of motivation for joining a team like that would be that you can get a broad overview and work and learn from engineers with various skills. And then just in the purple there is everything that's the technical or experience part. So they've mentioned that you'd be supporting the design team, you'd be implementing an engineering change order process. So you might have never even read about or learned about engineering change orders, but you might have implemented a process or improved the process before. So this is something that you could be talking about, process improvement experience. There's other ones here that like CAD management, data management system. I'll go into that in the next page. But impact analysis, and let's just move on to this page so you can see the rest. But they've asked like mechanically sound, so they're looking for someone that has a mechanical engineering degree or some engineering degree and maybe experience with mechanical. In my role, I'm always recruiting for engineers, and some of the kind of best stories could be, how they got into engineering. And a lot of the time it's that they were working on cars with their dad or granddad. So these are bits you could put in about your kind of past experience in your cover letter. And then problem solving, showing examples of how you have showed a great problem solving mindset, or how you've solved particular problems in the workplace and university. Again, it touches on like your CAD drawing packages, data management and programming, so they're preferred skills. So if you have them, then absolutely highlight them, because that will sort of catapult you above others that don't have them. And then there's a lot in the bottom there about data analysis, data clear up. So anything that you've done, maybe research modules, anything you've done throughout university with data, be really important to highlight. And then just going back, the blue is again the personal attributes. So I've just highlighted some things there that they're looking for, showing that you're a self-starter, showing that you're reliable, and someone who's not afraid to bring ideas to the table. So however you can get that across by giving examples of work experience or adding detail to that in your cover letter, that is extremely important. If you included all this, you would tick all their boxes. So yeah, just a bit of an exercise on how to highlight and how to break that down. So moving on to the cover letter, again, this is something that really is your chance to stand out. You will never have the same cover letter, even if everyone on this call uses the same CV format as we've discussed. You'll never have the same cover letter as each other, because it will be about you and why you are the best candidate for this role and why you want to work for that company and are interested in that company. So it really is the chance to put a kind of individual spin on your experience and your application. This also is really important because it showcases your written communication abilities. So again, things like the structure, like the grammar, it's showing that you'll be someone that when you come to intern, they're not afraid to let loose on emails, let loose on writing or helping with new policies. It'll be a real window into how you present yourself. And then it's also, again, a chance to show off your company knowledge, but also your research ability. So if you've really spent the time to like dig into that company, look through the news, look through potentially what client types they have, and you could showcase that and tie that back to your motivations and why you're interested in them, they're going to think, okay, this person doesn't just scratch the surface. This person is someone that has really committed to this process. They have high attention to detail and they're highly motivated. The biggest thing is that people want people to work for them that want to be there. So yeah, really, really important to make sure you get that across, that you know more than maybe the job description's telling you about the company. And then really you can highlight the why. So just touching back on point one, why the company, why the role, why you're interested in it. And then rather than the facts, you could be more personal, kind of appeal to the more emotional or softer side of the recruiter. Of course, keep it professional here, but it's yeah, the cover letters that kind of spark a bit of emotion and get into like a bit of a personal story or personal motivation will definitely be memorable at least. And then also just think about how you like personally align with the values. So that's a really good way to keep it professional but appeal to the emotional side. People put a lot of work into the values of their company, and in great companies these will be kind of pertinent throughout the whole business, so that will appeal to their emotional side. But also I can't think of anything more kind of personal of like how that company could help you realise your career ambitions. So if you already know exactly what you want to do and this is just like a step forward in that direction so that you're ready when you graduate, then make sure you've shared exactly how that fits with your ambitions. And then just a little bit about content and structure, and then we're going to show you an example of this down the line as well. But of course, opening with addressing the hiring manager, make sure if you know who that is that you include their name. If not, it's fine to say, dear hiring manager. And then to structure it, you'll have an open paragraph that will introduce yourself. This is really the attention grabber, as well, similarly to the profile on your CV. You want to kind of structure this into a short introduction summarising like who you are. So potentially it's I don't know, like a HR student at X university, currently on track for a first degree, and then like a bit about your motivations. There could be many ways to kind of write this, but really summarising who you are, then going on to a slight hint to what you'll go on to explore further, why you're the best fit. So maybe a few key skills and why you chose their organisation. So maybe just a couple of words on your motivation. And then the next paragraph, I would say you really want to expand on your qualifications and experience, but you don't want to just regurgitate CV details. This should be, new or at least more in-depth information than what your CV goes into on what your key achievements are and your suitability. Again, mirroring the job description and what they're looking for. And then in the next paragraph, this is really like about connecting with the company, answering like the why them. So you could expand here on your motivations. You could do this by giving examples of how you personally resonate with their values, stating their values and explaining why that's similar to your personal values, or similarly to their mission statement, or their kind of products or key projects as well. How are they aligned to your personal values? Sometimes it could be whether you've got experience with them. I know a lot in life science recruitment. I used to see a lot or hear a lot of interviews of, how, for example, like if they were applying for a medical device company that had produced diabetic pen needles, like how that had changed their life or someone's life in the business, that like you can't be more motivated to work for a company than that. So something along those lines that's personal to you, whether that's just professional or whether it is a personal story. And then making sure that you use a closing paragraph to kind of as much as you grab their attention at the start, you're leaving a lasting impression, but you're concluding and summarising why you're the best candidate from for the role. So not dissimilar to how you would structure an essay really here. And yeah, making sure that you do sign off, thanking the recruiter for their time and consideration. And so you could note that you really hope that you get a chance to discuss your experience in more detail, and signing off with yours sincerely, popping your name in if you do have an e-signature, popping that in as well. So excuse me, here's just an example of how I would structure that and just what that maybe looks like as one blank page. Would keep it definitely to one page. And then again, I've used the same colour coding as we did before. So kind of company and motivation is in yellow, and then your technicals in purple, and then your personals in blue here. So yeah, I won't go over this again. This is more for you to look back at this resource. It just really summarises what we have discussed already in terms of structure. And then I know this was touched on just as I got kicked out, but this is just a link to the fantastic resource that is already available through Entrepreneurial Scotland, the candidate pool guidance webpage. So make sure that you do reference this as you are formatting your CVs and cover letters. And then this is just one example that I've taken, but there's so many really amazing resources online that will go into more undergraduate CVs and cover letters as well. And then really amazing resources, your university career service, making sure that you are using them, but also you're planning this in advance. Typically, there will be a lot of people from the universities looking to get support with the exact same process for these internships. So you want to make sure that you've planned this in, got in there early, and maybe got like a first appointment booked, and then maybe a review appointment booked, not just expecting that, you know, the night before this is all due in that they will be available, because I could guarantee you they won't be. And then that is it for me. I just want to say thank you so much for your time, and yeah, massive good luck and all the best. I know that you guys will be amazing. And then yeah, pass it back over to you, Kelly, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Shauny. Honestly, it's so informative, so much information packed in there. The slides are super helpful. A couple of people have asked in chat if they'll have access to these afterwards. So yes, that is the short answer. We will absolutely share the slides and a recording of this evening's call to the wider candidate pool in the next couple of days. So keep a wee eye out for that. It will be hosted in the YouTube channel as normal. I had a couple of questions, Shauny, if that's okay, in the Q&A and in the chat box. So Neela has asked if your previous experiences should be listed in reverse chronological order, or if you feel one relates more closely to the job you're applying to, would it be best to list that one first?
So I would put that in reverse chronological order. That's probably like a traditional CV answer, but that's what I would do. They don't necessarily, if one is most relatable, then that could be the more chunky section, and the other parts could just have maybe one or two bullet points. But yeah, that's how I would do it. It just makes it really easy to follow your kind of timeline and really start to kind of bring your experience to life.
That's lovely, thank you. I hope Neela found that helpful. I've had lots of really kind thank yous in the chat box as well, Shauny, people that have had to dive off, head off to work and things. So lots of people saying thank you, found it very informative. So I'm just scrolling back up through the chat now, past all those lovely thank you messages. I have shared a copy of the link to the candidate pool page in the chat box as well, if people want to open that in their browser before signing off. And Ruth has asked if it asks for a specific degree subject in the job application, the job advert, and you don't happen to study that degree, is it still worth applying, especially if you have transferable skills?
Yeah, I would say so. If you have the transferable skills and a really strong motivation to, then I certainly would. I think my profile wouldn't have been a very obvious choice for the internship that I went for. So I studied psychology and counselling, and it was more of an events and a business internship. They didn't ask for a specific degree, but I think and they gave me this feedback is what really resonated with them is that I had done a lot of volunteering. I was really interested and was able to demonstrate like how I resonated with their values and how they were important to me. So from my experience, I would say go for it. Maybe balance out your other applications with ones that are a bit more of an obvious fit, just so you're giving yourself more of a chance. But yeah, what's your thoughts on that Kelly, your kind of advice as well?
I would agree, Shauny. What I would say is if it's a technical role and they're looking for a very specific degree, for example, an electrical engineer, then if I was studying fine arts, I wouldn't apply for that role. So I think there's an element of using your common sense and personal judgment. But equally, if they're asking for someone studying a business degree and you're studying modern languages, for example, but you have a wealth of experience from industry, from part-time work, from volunteering, and you're strongly motivated and your values align with the company, I would always encourage you to apply because you never know the curveball that might happen. Shauny, you're a great example of it. And I think that there's no harm in trying, and the team are absolutely looking for the potential and the talent that's there rather than pigeonholing people into specific categories.
Yeah.
And I have another one from a couple of people actually have asked the same question. Your thoughts on a single page CV? We allow up to 2 pages in the programme, as I'm sure everyone's read somewhere, but we have noticed over the course of too many years doing this that certain industry backgrounds, for example, those working in computer science and informatics, tend to submit 1 page. And that's almost the industry standard. But a couple of people have asked what your thoughts are on 1 page CVs in general.
Yeah, I think if you can summarize and showcase your experience within that 1 page, like absolutely, but I wouldn't be doing this because you were worried about not having enough experience. Like you will have enough that you can pull on through university and through other life experiences that aren't necessarily just work based. So 1 page, if you know, like it's concise, it's really kind of data driven, giving lots of stats, examples. Yeah, but and like you say, a lot of industries will be quite impressed by that, like your ability to condense information and showcase information. So yeah, I've seen some amazing ones as well, like really creative looking ones for like marketing and creative positions that are just the 1 page. So yeah, I think again, use your discretion, but don't do it because you're really worried about filling 1 page. Make sure you still have enough information on there that will allow someone to get a good insight and decide whether you're the right candidate.
Fantastic, thank you. My colleagues were leaving for the train there, so apologies for any background noise that anyone might have heard as he was saying his farewells to everyone. And Jake is asking as well, if you have a creative background and you're working in the creative industries, is it a good idea to insert perhaps a QR code or a URL to your portfolio of work in a way that could help the company or better understand your experience from a creative perspective?
Yes, 100%. I think it's a great idea. I've seen it done many a times, and it will just give them a real insight into like your style. And yeah, you don't need to use too many words in the creative industry. I think a lot of it is visual, so if you can put that in there, definitely recommend that.
I'm still on mute. I'm not sure if Aoife is still on the call. The question was why CVs and cover letters are separate in an application. I don't know if that's enough information for you to be able to answer, Shauny, or if that was something that was a specific question for our programme. But is there a particular reason that companies would like to see a cover letter? What does it do that the CV can't? It would probably be my question to you.
Yeah, so I think CVs will provide, just that enough information, factual information, kind of data-driven information. But what a cover letter will do will really speak to like the motivation, the personal side, and allow you to add more detail around that. So yeah, some people, and it'll depend on how this process, if you need to upload them as two separate documents, some people just put the cover letter just as a page before the CV in one document and save it. But yeah, they're separate because the cover letter adds real value, and I think there's no better way to show commitment to a process, commitment to a job than, taking that extra time. Of course, we're asking you here to tailor your CV, so it should be a bit different for each job, but companies traditionally ask for the cover letter so that they can see that you're actually genuinely interested, you've spent the time, you know what you're applying for. You'd be surprised that the amount of applications I see day in, day out that must have never opened the job description because they're completely irrelevant, or they've just completely misunderstood the job just by a job title.
Yeah.
So yeah, it
Yeah.
just adds a lot more detail.
No, that's excellent. Thank you. I know we're coming up to 30:30 and I don't want to monopolise your evening, Shauny. I've had a couple of questions that I'll combine. They're to do with almost the presentation of your CV, asking about specific formats. What's your thoughts on creative and colourful borders? Is there a specific font or font size that is preferable? How creative and how individualised should your CV be? I'm curious, sometimes we have received CVs that contain the candidate's photograph on them, and they always brighten our day because it's not black text on white paper. But how is that considered in industry? What do employers think when they receive really bright and colourful CVs, perhaps with a font that could be a bit outside of your standard Times New Roman?
Yeah, I think it's a tough one because again, if you're going to be applying to a creative industry or like for example, a company that's like really new, really modern, and that might appeal, especially like companies that are really big on socials and like presentation is really important. However, sometimes if it's going to go through like an applicant tracking system, if it's going to make your eyes get a bit funny and not follow along, then I would avoid it. I would say stick to it if it's creative industries. You can change up fonts, but I would say probably 11 or 12 Arial is if I was formatting a CV, like just very basic, very standard. It's more about how the reader's eyes will follow and how easy that is in the structure. But again, it'll depend on industry, role, company type you're applying for. The photo thing, the HR answer is that, yeah, it's actually really nice to put a face to a name, but, and I hate to even be saying this, but I think the more, I suppose, the more, I don't know what the right way to put this is, but we
What
never
I
want
would
to
say is the
encourage
the
bias.
more social your
Yeah,
photo is as well. We often see that. So you can see someone else's shoulder cropped out of the photo, or the candidate has a drink in their hand,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's a photo they've selected for a professional CV. We never think that's a good idea.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really good point. Yeah, I think it's a good point. And do you know what? I actually remember back when I was applying on my Google, I had a photo from an event and it probably had like too much shoulder, too much upper area showing, and I that's like something I learned through it. And yeah, I would say as well, just because it might encourage bias. This is an awful thing to even say, but I would never put a photo on because someone might think, oh, this person looks like their face fits, and
Yeah,
that's just why I would avoid it. But yeah, completely up to
yeah,
you. I know a lot of different industries like sales and BD, there's like a lot of research into like the halo effect and people buy from attractive
people
people.
they connect with. Yeah,
Yeah. But if everyone sticks together as a group and doesn't put that, then you're just
yeah,
keeping it a really fair process.
yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the traditional HR answer.
Yep, no, thank you for that. I think the key word from Jack's question was a professional picture on your CV, and for me, the key word there is professional. That it is a headshot that's very clearly been taken for a purpose if you're going to submit it, rather than a copy of, your Instagram profile picture. So,
Yeah, that's
um,
good advice.
could leave that one at that. There are some other more general program type questions which I'm not going to answer this evening because we're here to talk about CV and cover letter writing. Have you got any top tips for people that have done specific perhaps university or personal research projects that may help towards the application or enhance it? Should these be separated out in the CV, or is it sufficient enough to cover this under work experience?
Yeah, I would cover it under work experience and under the kind of title of I suppose the place and the job that you gained that in, or the university course. So, but you can add a section that says maybe key projects, like you would have key skills, key achievements, key projects. So you can just add that as a section, but it'll keep it just really clear where you gained this if you keep it in the kind of sections of work experience. And again, if your work experience, if you don't have work experience, that can be just university experience is your work experience. So you can really bulk it out in there.
That's great. And from our project perspective, to answer Noah's question regarding AI scanning CVs and potentially excluding them if they're overly customised, we do not use AI or algorithms or an ATS to scan our CVs. A member of our team will read by hand every single CV and cover letter. So from our programme's perspective, that is not something you have to worry about. But Shauny, from an industry perspective, from an HR professional's perspective, how are things looking at the moment with AI doing a general scan of applications and potentially knocking some out and highlighting some others as best suited?
Yeah, it definitely happens. It's a big bugbear of mine as well, and I've made it like a rule of my company that, a human will look at every application and decide. So it's amazing to hear that is how that you're going to do that within this process. However, it absolutely happens. It's more applicant tracking systems, it'll prioritize or highlight specific CVs that match key technical words, key university courses. So it definitely happens in industry. Typically, you'll find a lot of like the massive players and massive companies will use this because they'll have such volume that they couldn't possibly kind of sift through the CVs, like they would need to hire massive teams. So just like everything, it's purely for efficiency, but that's why it's really important that you don't kind of elongate words that they'll just have as like a abbreviated word or whatever. That's why that's important, maybe outside of this process.
Great advice. And last one from you, from Michael, who has asked, if you are typically applying to a government job, is the screening process any different than it would be if you're applying to a role in the private sector? From our perspective, the application assessment process is the same regardless of the industry that our host company sits within. But then post-graduation, if you were applying for graduate roles or full-time positions, how would that sit, Shauny, in terms of your approach to applying for a role within government as opposed to the private sector?
What I actually find in government is that it's a lot of it is still application questions rather than CV. So you've got the kind of take out bits and tailor that, and then process wise, like beyond that into the interview section, you would have a lot more structured point scoring based interviews. So everyone will be asked the exact same question. They might not hone in individually on specific bits of your CV. So it's really up to you to make sure that you pull that relevant detail out and format it in such a way that it covers their questions. And then the only other difference I'll typically find is that there's a lot of kind of clearance and a lot more maybe like PVGs and other bits like that. So I've never actually applied to the government, but that's just what I know about industry.
No,
Yeah.
thank you. It's a great general question, so thank you for taking it because I know it sits a bit outside of our programme and what we're here to talk about tonight. I know you covered this in your slides, but in terms of covering out your university modules, I can't stress this enough from our perspective. It is absolutely essential that you highlight and pull out key modules that relate to what the host company is asking for in terms of skills and experience. It's one of the best ways that an undergraduate CV can actually highlight yourself as the most suitable person for the role. Grades against specific subjects from our perspective, sometimes people do it, sometimes people don't. It wouldn't influence who we would shortlist. I can't say from a company perspective how much influence it pulls. Shauny, if you were to see a CV that listed half a dozen modules and also had the grades or the percentage average after it. Would that influence your decision?
I think if it was clear that this person was an overachiever and in the kind of top percentage of grades, then of course, because people are looking for like the best. But yeah, just to your point, absolutely like module detail is super important. But yeah, I don't think it's much of an issue if you maybe just include what you're on track for overall. So if you're on track for a first or a 2-1 within your degree, then you could just pop that, at the top. In the line where you say what your course is, your university is, not necessarily needed to break that down unless you're someone that's like, 85% plus or 80
Yeah.
plus, then of course it just speaks to what you're like and that you'll do really well in whatever you do.
That's great. Thank you so much. I have closed the chat box, so if you have posted a question since I closed it, apologies that we didn't get to it tonight. We are quite over time, and I know there's probably thousands of questions we could all be asking. Shauny, thank you again so much. Shauny had put at the end of her slide deck there that she's happy to connect on LinkedIn. Some CVs, we do see students' LinkedIn profiles on it. If you're an active LinkedIn user, then certainly connect with the Saltire Programme's LinkedIn profile as well. Our marketing officer does keep an eye on things like that, sees what students are up to in the long run, and it's a great way for us to remain connected with you in the longer term beyond your cycle within the programme as well. So LinkedIn is a great way to learn about what we're doing as well. And it's another platform we will use to advertise anything forthcoming. Just in terms of things that are forthcoming, you will have seen in the email inviting you along this evening that we are offering drop-in sessions starting from next week. This is an opportunity, as was mentioned on the welcome call, for you to come along and meet with a member of the team in a very small group of 3 people. There's a bit of peer discussion and learning available there, and you can come and ask very specific and unique questions about your CV, about your cover letter, about the programme in general, and a member of our team will be there to facilitate that and answer any questions. They're very short and snappy, they're 15 minutes, they are scheduled throughout the day so that people can attend amongst their lectures during a lunch hour, on the bus on the way home, if that's what you want to do. So please do consider booking into a drop-in session with us. They will be available all the way through the months of January, February and March while we're recruiting, and possibly into April as well, depending on the recruitment calendar. So they're a great way for you to get some personal tailored feedback based on your applications to date. So thanks to Shauny for helping us in the past with our suggestion on this. We did it last year and the uptake was high, and we delivered literal thousands of hours in feedback sessions across the team. So they are well worth it. Please do consider booking in with us. But other than that, everything else I had to cover, I covered at the very beginning. So thanks to Shauny for backing me up on Taylor. Stand out from the crowd, don't be generic. And honestly, this is us going into the most exciting part of the cycle. We want every single one of you to succeed. So please take on board everything you've heard this evening. We will share the slides with you. Bookmark this video, rewatch it, remind yourself of what was discussed tonight. All these resources are here to help. So we hope you have found this evening helpful. Thank you again for your time. To still have over 100 people on this call so far past its finishing time is amazing. So thanks again, and all the very best with your first applications.
Thank you. Good luck, everyone.
Yep, all the very best. You're all now free to go.